We'll fast forward. We'll jump over a couple of online questions to a regular here. Mike Kramer is in Amarillo, Texas, and he's watching us from there.
I promised him I'm going to wave to him when he...
Amarillo, Texas.
How you doing? Nice to see you.
He says he misses us. Question is, why are Jews not allowed to bury their dead in caskets, and why do we bury in sheets specifically? I'm not sure what most people...
Well,
right, I guess that's what he means.
It's
shrouds and not...
to say not in caskets is not really true, because we do bury in caskets. We don't make them fancy. We bury in plain wooden caskets. We do not in metal ones or stone ones and so on. And we don't necessarily bury in sheets. They're called tachrichim. So there's two parts to answer that question. We don't believe in preserving the body. We spoke about in the past that the body has to disintegrate and become built up new again. After the sin of Adam and Eve, we spoke a few weeks ago, God said we don't want men to live forever, people to live forever, because they will never be able to come to his completion. Because since he sinned, the body became very mundane and physical and earthly. And we want a person to be able to come to the world to come in a holy, pure fashion. And the body that we have now is not holy and pure. It has to go through the process of disintegrating in the ground, and then will be rebuilt to come to rendezvous with the neshama, the soul, in the future. The soul leaves the body. The soul lives the same way it was before the body disintegrates. So we want the sooner the better. The body disintegrates, the sooner the better, because we want it to be ready for Tchias HaMesim, for it to get up when the time for the resurrection of the dead, when the dead will come alive. We want that body totally to be disintegrated and now be built up again and be able to come to get together with the neshama in a much holy and pure way. So therefore we don't want to bury in ways that the body should be preserved. We want the body put in the ground in a very simple casket. The shrouds that they call the tachrichim that we put on a dead body, we clothe it with certain types of linen clothing. That's a very interesting background as far as that's concerned. They used to bury the body with very expensive clothing, as a matter of fact, in the old times, because we wanted to show that the body is very important to us, that the body lived in this world and did God's commandments and will come alive again in the future. We don't just throw the body like an animal, dead animal, that just forget about it. With this body that we it's very sacred, we consider. A body has to be handled very carefully. All kinds of laws, how we have to handle that body, because we consider it a very holy thing. It was the living place of the soul, together with the body together. We serve to God together, the body and the soul. So the body is very important to us, and has to be handled with care and with the right kind of respect. So it has to be clothed. Just don't throw it in the ground the way it is. You have to be clothed with special clothing. As a matter of fact, like I said before, they used to clothe the body with very expensive clothing to show that we believe Tchias HaMesim. We believe that the body will come alive again in the future. We don't just throw it to the ground like that and say, well, who cares about it like an animal, chas v'sholem. When we bury a body, if you notice, if the burial in the cemetery, the feet of the body are put towards the road. The head is put away from the road to show that the Tchias HaMesim, the dead body will stand Tchias HaMesim, his feet will walk right to the road and be able to go to where it's supposed to go. That's a symbolism of Tchias HaMesim in the future. So they used to clothe the body with very expensive clothing. And it came to a point that people couldn't afford it. The rich people used to clothe them with real expensive clothing to show that we respect the body. It's going to get up in the future again. It's not a thing that we forgot about. It's going to come back again. And poor people couldn't afford it. It's like we have the problem today with people making very expensive weddings and the poor people can't afford it, and people go and start borrowing money because they're embarrassed not to make an expensive wedding because the neighbor next door made a real expensive wedding for, who knows, $100,000. That's not so much today for a wedding for some people. And they can't afford it, and they're embarrassed, and they have to borrow money, and so on. Many communities, they make all kinds of laws that you cannot exceed a certain amount of money for a wedding because it's causing a lot of difficulty and embarrassment and pain for people who can't afford it. The same problem was in those times. They used to, a dead body, the rich people used to clothe it with very expensive clothes, and the poor people couldn't afford it. To the point where some people used to run away. Somebody died, they ran away someplace, said, I can't afford it, I can't take it. You take care of it. The people in the city take it, I can't afford it. So what happened was, the great Rabbi Gamliel was one of the great leaders of the Jewish people. He left in his will that they should bury him with the most simple clothing. No fancy stuff, nothing expensive. From now on, I want to be buried. When I die, he left in his will that I want to be buried with the most simple, cheap clothing. And since he did it, so everybody afterwards wasn't embarrassed anymore because he was the great leader of the Jewish people. He was a very rich person, a great leader, a great scholar, Rabbi Gamliel. Gamliel was the son of him. He left us about, bury me in the most simple, cheap clothing. So from then on, people, if he can do it, I can do it. And therefore, they stopped everybody from then on using expensive clothing. Because he went ahead, that's the great leaders of the Jewish people are great, not only when they're alive, even when they die, they want to help the Jewish people. And from then on, they started burying in simple clothing without any expensive stuff. So that's where we get the shrouds today. They're not so cheap today either, by the way. But anyway, they find linen clothing that they put them in, nothing expensive, and no jewelry, and they used to put all kinds of jewelry, all kinds of things put in them. Not every simple and plain. White linen clothing that they clothe the body with. So that's why it's not a sheet, it's like sort of type of pants thing on the bottom with the covering on the top, very simple, that they clothe the body with. The Chevra Kadisha, the ones that take care of the bodies, that's what they take care of. Everybody's the same. Nobody's different because they don't want anybody to feel that, he's more fancy. Some people when they're dead, they want to look nicer than other people. We said, no. Everybody, the same thing. Men, women, everybody gets the same treatment, and therefore there's no competition, and the families don't have to feel very upset that they weren't able to give the proper respect to the dead body of not affording fancy clothing. There's no such thing as fancy clothing anymore. The only time is on a person that was I won't go into that right now. Okay, that answers that question.